Morning and welcome to the June 11th meeting of the New York State Independent Redistricting Commission. In terms of our agenda, first on the agenda is an update from our paid co-executive directors. Karen and Doug, take it away.
So we think we are going to be able to design the website in-house and save a lot of money. We've started that process. We should have something ready to show you by the end of next week. We've also hired our first staffer, Miranda Goodwin-Rabb. She is the Assistant Director of Engagement.
That's all the update is for now. We are actually trying to set up the administrative side as well. Karen and I have been pretty busy, but we're going through all of our interview process with staff. We did Karen did get the first staffer, and we had a meeting with her yesterday, which is great. And we're working through all of our administrative needs as far as office space and trying to locate that as well.
Fantastic. Thank you, Karen and Doug. Any questions for the co-executive directors?
I do. Just so we have, and everyone has a realistic timeline. Before we can get into certain meaningful aspects of public engagement, we need to get our legs under us, and that's always been, part of the struggle and frustration, I think, for the entire team is making sure that we have our infrastructure in place so we can actually go out there and do what we're supposed to be doing. So timing becomes important. Can we, without putting you on the spot, obviously, but just generally, how long do you think it's going to take for us to have a website where we can have that kind of interface, including email addresses, so that people can provide information and we can begin actually compiling information and have a way of storing it? Website, the ability to host these video forums involves a different technology. How long will it take for us to be able to do that? Where do you see us ramping up with regard to staffing? We have a staffer who's already been hired, but how long will it take us to get to some level of critical mass where we have a structure in place with the technology in place where we can begin to host hearings and know that we can effectively control those hearings and conduct them properly? Those are sort of the things that are important, I think, to me, in terms of then our next discussion, which will be, okay, how do we begin now setting up a timeline with regard to public outreach and begin setting up hearings? Because we can't set up those hearings until we actually have a baseline. So are we talking about 30 days out? Are we talking about less, more? And I know we're dealing with guesstimates here, and there are all kinds of variables that play into this, but we can't have that next discussion until we actually understand what this is. So which one of you, Karen?
I can't give you an exact date when this is all going to come together, but what I can say is that we're working on it attentively and as quickly as possible. The website obviously is going to be first because that's our priority. And we hope to have email addresses within a week or two. Wouldn't you say, Doug?
Yeah, I think Karen's accurate. I believe that the website, if it works internally, can be up and live within the next week and a half or so. As far as full complement of staff, that should follow about that timeline. So a couple, 2 to 3 weeks, we should have full complement. Will we be prepared fully administratively? That's it's tough to guesstimate that. It really is. So
we're doing a lot of interviewing also, and it's very time consuming.
Karen, do you?
My apologies.
there's
This
any
is John
possibility-
Conway checking in.
Oh, hi, John.
Hi, John. Welcome to the commission.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I apologize for being late.
Yeah, would you like to speak briefly?
No, I'm all set. I
Oh.
will take a back row.
Okay. Well, thank you. Welcome to the madhouse, John. Okay.
Thank you.
But sorry, Elaine. Oh, we lost Elaine. All right. While we wait for Elaine to jump back in, any other questions for Karen and Doug? Oh,
No,
yeah,
I was
she's
just, I
back.
had everybody else.
Elaine?
Oh, wow. Karen, I really do need some internet. But at the end, hello, I have an assembly email,
Okay.
and it was available to me the moment. I was surprised at how quickly when we went from one state to the other. So I do not know if the Senate Personnel Services works the same way, but gentlemen, I have an assembly email. It only took finishing the employment papers. And that was very fast. Surprised. I'm sorry,
I
Doug.
can agree. I can just answer that. We're all going to have assembly emails because of the way the structure is on the payroll. But Karen and I are working to try to create an IRC email so that that's how we would correspond as opposed to the assembly email. But Commissioner Frazier, you're right. We all are going to have assembly emails for administrative purposes on that side. But we were hoping to create an IRC email along with our IRC website, so it all worked in conjunction. It could be housed by us.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions for the co-executive directors? All right. Oops.
Space, upstate, downstate, any more specific prognostication there?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Space.
Oh,
yeah.
space.
Upstate, downstate.
The search continues. We've identified a few places where we could potentially move into, but we haven't finished touring all those locations yet.
Great. All right. Any other questions for Karen and Doug? All right, so moving forward to the next and final item on the agenda, public outreach. So we had kind of discussed this, I think, and this goes into scheduling our next meeting. I think we are very much on the cusp of being able to roll out our hearings. I don't think it makes sense for us to schedule another meeting right now because I don't think, we don't want to set an arbitrary date and then be unable to meet it. So commissioners, would everyone be in agreement on waiting to schedule another meeting until these logistical steps have been taken? Whether everyone's nuts, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
No objection.
Okay. So in terms of that, right, let us lay out what exactly we're waiting for, right, and what exactly we're going to do once these logistical hurdles have been overcome. I mean, I think in terms of unveiling this to the public, I think it would be ideal to be able to say the dates of the hearings as well as how to submit information to the commission, right? So those are the two key items. And then I would also say that, it would be ideal, I think, to have a press conference for the full commission where the press could ask questions as well. And, we need to try to get the word out there. So I think Jack and I had discussed this, and I think our agreement was that we should have a meeting and then have the press conference after that. What are folks' thoughts on that? Right. No objection.
I don't know, am I coming through?
Yep, Charlie, yeah.
Sorry, I just would say we should be sure that we are fully capable. We should also consider what format we receive testimony in, because I'm going to assume that not all of it will be oral. That's something that should be considered and defined before information is put out. in terms of the internal structure, I assume there's going to be a certain amount of hashing out or development of who does what for whom, and developing capabilities that are beyond just getting somebody on board and then trying to operate the next day. So I don't know what your plans are, Karen or Doug, for in that regard, but the startup of a brand new organization is a challenging event for sure. So again, I'll be the last person to press for a timeline, but I just want everybody to consider that these things are very important factors. And unfortunately, we should have been doing them a year ago, but we are where we are.
Karen and Doug, do you want to say anything on that? I mean, I agree with you, Charlie.
I could just say that the new employee that was hired is going to help out with a little bit of the website content between the two co-executive directors and compiling that so that we can get up the website. As we continue hiring, we're going to be collaborating together to make sure that both offices are putting, divvying up the work as Karen and I deal with the administrative stuff. Bringing a staff member on to help with some of that work is helpful. So that's how we're starting currently, Commissioner Nesbitt.
As to the other question, which I believe had to do with the press conference, I don't think anyone would object to a press conference. I think you can just decide whether that's with the entire commission or our chair and co-chair can handle it, or chair and co-chair and executive directors for technical questions can handle it, rather than having this whole Brady Bunch panel. No, I'm the Brady.
Ross, you don't want your day in the sun, Ross?
I'll take my 15 or 20 minutes, and I'll be glad to answer. I just I thought it's just something to think about. I'm fine either way, and I vote in favor of more public access and accountability and all of that. Whatever you decide is the best way and most productive way to do that, I'm on board either way. I just thought I'd bring that up and take 5 seconds now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something to discuss. I think personally, I think that it would be great if if any commissioner who is interested in attending can come, right? I mean, I think Jack and I have no monopoly on this commission, right? And so I think that anyone who, we are a 10-person commission, and every commissioner has an equal say. But that being said, right, I also agree that a Brady Bunch press conference is unwieldy for a number of reasons, right? So yeah, but I think we can figure this out as we get closer. Anything else? I think so I want to just reiterate for the public that these hearings are asking for 2 things. One, we're asking for the public to identify your communities, right? What makes your community, right? What is your community of interest? And it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be geographic. It could be language. It could be shared employers. It could be a church. It could be a school. It could be a supermarket, right? But we want people to identify what their communities of interest are, right? Number 2, related to that, we want you to talk about your current district lines and how those intersect with your communities of interest. So is your community of interest divided between 6 different districts, right? Do you find it difficult to get the attention of your elected officials because your communities are split, right? I think those are the 2 major items that this round of hearings are aimed at gathering information for. Is there anything else, Commissioner John? Yeah.
Yes, I would add a 3rd item, which we've been discussing, and that's the protected class groups under the Voting Rights Act. There are 5 formal categories: Black, Hispanic, Asian, Native American, and Hawaiian and other Pacific Islander. Those are the census. Those are the categories the Justice Department has been working with. And I think and there are a number of formal organized groups around those protected classes. And the sooner we hear from them, I think the better position we'll be in to move forward proactively and minimize, an possibly adversarial kind of relationship down the road. I think if we get those issues to the table on the front end of our taking off from the runway, so to speak. So that would be a third category I think we should work with up front in terms of our public engagement.
I think
So
I agree,
think-
but I also would mention that I think the first qualification would be to be a New York State resident, and that it would be very helpful if individuals who intend to give information or testify would identify their at least county of residence.
Yes,
Yes,
I agree.
I would say that these hearings, we're definitely going to ask
I agree.
the person who's going to participate and give testimony to, provide us with basic information about, where they reside. So we are focused on having, people who live in our state being the ones providing testimony about their communities of interest and about the district lines, of course. And of course, these protected classes, I think it's general knowledge that we have citizens of the state of New York who are members of all of these protected classes under the Voting Rights Act. And I think it's incumbent upon us to, as Commissioner Flateau says, engage these communities directly before we engage in line drawing, so that in the long run, we are as compliant as possible with the Voting Rights Act, and that we have the least, I would say, legal pushback in the future once these lines are drawn and proposed to our state legislature for approval.
No, I agree. We have a big state, and we have a very diverse state. And I think our first step needs to be making sure that everyone has a voice, in all four corners of the state, whether urban, rural, or suburban, that everyone has a voice. We are, I think, appropriately sensitive to making sure that no one is excluded, and that, Commissioner Flateau, to your point, that protected classes are not overlooked. And I think we've demonstrated that, and certainly we have members of the commission here who are very sensitive to that, and rightfully so. But I don't want to overstate the importance of one over the other. Our responsibility is general to everyone in the state. And whether you live in a village and you identify your community of interest as being the municipal boundaries of your village, or whether you identify with an ethnic, racial, religious group, or otherwise, those are all legitimate purposes. And that's the purpose of this commission. I just wish we would highlight the general over the specific for now, and make sure that we all keep an eye on the ball, because we have a lot of work to do. We are going to reach out to every community, certainly those protected classes, but every community across the state as identified geographically and otherwise. And we're going to do our best to make sure that we have all the information we need before we put those maps in place.
All right, is there anything else, commissioners, that we would like to discuss? All right, there being none, I would ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting, with our next meeting to be scheduled upon Karen and Doug accomplishing all of the things that we have given them to do. All right, so I have a motion to adjourn. Yes, second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Aye.
thank you, and have a good day.
Have a great day, everyone. Have a great week.